All right, we have a special presentation for you today on this Monday, the 22nd of September, 2025. We have a conjunction of a new moon, which is right now, and the beginning of autumn, which is called, in astronomy and in the vernacular, the way we just talk, it is called the equinox, which means that statistically the length of the day and night are the same. Whereas the rest of the year, they're not. Except at the antipode, which is the vernal equinox in spring, when again everything lines up and then is not lined up. So those are the equinoxes, which are matched by the solstices, the winter solstice, which is now exactly 3 months away, and the summer solstice, which is exactly 3 months behind us. So what I'll be showing you today begins with this simple letter that I got from my Islam friends. I am being taught by Islam scholars now. I've requested this and I've gotten a response. I am now a proselyte, an official proselyte of the Islam faith. Dear students, friends, and supporters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. They say it much better. Allah, Most High, swears by the stars. Pause there. Have you ever heard anyone say that? God swears by the stars? I already knew that. But I don't even talk about that because that's from one of the most, actually the most ancient prophecy on human record, which is Enoch. And I'm an expert on Enoch, at least in my own eyes I'm an expert. He said that many times. It turns out that the prophet, who would refer to God as Allah, which is a splendid name, Allah, Most High. Now, Most High is another name that's used at least in the Israeli transmission. Most High is El Elyon. El Elyon. So Allah is another name. Extremely, you could use that name to blaspheme, and you don't want to do that. Break a commandment? No. Don't ever do that. To say God damn it is bad enough, but that is not in itself, I would say, a federal crime. But if you say Allah, you better be thinking blessed be his name when you say it, or don't say it. I'm just warning you. The Most High is another proper name, the one that Ibrahim used, the one that Abraham, peace, he used was El Elyon. So Allah El Elyon, as my Bismillah friend is writing to me today. This was, actually yesterday now, because it's in the wee hours of the night. Allah Most High swears by the stars that there is absolutely no doubt that he is the one who has revealed the miraculously eloquent Quran. That is not an exaggeration. Do you know what language the Quran was written in originally? And what is considered to be the definitive text? What language is that? You may or may not know, don't worry, but I'll tell you. It's Arabian. It's written in Arabian. Muhammad was an Arabian, which what that means genealogically, he's one of the descendants of Abraham, as were the Israelis. So technically, he's an Ishmaeli, an Ishmaeli, not Israeli. Those are the Jews, so-called. But the Ishmaeli are an ancient, you could say, family of tribes. That would be fairly accurate. It's really difficult to come up with words for grouping people because they're all different sizes of groups. But the Shemitic people are descendants of Shem, which predates Abraham. The term Semitic should not be used. It's an illegal word. And anybody who uses the word anti-Semite just simply is revealing their absolute ignorance of anything realistic. They don't know what they're saying. So this goes on. I could give several lectures on why the miraculously eloquent Quran that is reserved to Arabic, that does not come across in English. And that's why the text was guarded. Is to preserve its purity. But you see, that can't remain the case. That was only the case for the time of Muhammad, and perhaps centuries after, but not today. Not today. If nobody else translates it, I will. It has to be rendered into English. Well, thank goodness. First of all, it would take me a long time to learn Arabic. And I'm not sure I even have that many years left to learn such an incredibly beautiful, quite different from any European language. It's much, much older. I'll say, it's not exactly right. Let's go on. So, Bismillah, which is either it's I think it's actually a person. I should know, but I'm not sure I recognize Bismillah. It may be just a generic greeting. Dear students, it's who it's from, but I don't recognize it, so it could be someone's name, and if I forgot it, well, shame on me. But I am a newbie. I can be expected to forget a few things at the beginning. I pray, because I am serious. I want to be Islam. So the miraculously eloquent Quran, and then there's a quotation, in parentheses, from Quran 56. But the interesting thing is that he doesn't just swear by the stars. And the next line, when I read it early yesterday, I can't even express to you my amazement and gratitude. But so I'll just read this to you, and then I'll attempt briefly at the end of this missive to tell you what it means to me, so that you'll be able to share my sense of wonder, even if you're not sure about anything else. But the interesting thing is that he doesn't just swear by the stars. Instead, he swears by the mawaki, the falling places of the stars. Can you even guess what might be meant by that? The falling places of the stars? Well, if you're an astronomer, I would bet that you do, but I'll bet that it takes you a moment to figure out what is meant by that. Because do stars fall? Do they have places? They have both, because of relative motion. And that's why in the prior video is a refresher, about 35 minutes long. I believe it's good enough. All I was doing was refreshing my viewers' memories, which I believe is a correct thing to do at this point, whether you think you know what relativity is or not, or space-time, you think you know what it is. I don't think you'll ever know as well as you might. And I shouldn't say that because that would be discouraging. It's a tough row to hoe. But if you listen to me, you'll definitely understand it. It's time lag. So, he swears by the mawaki, the falling places of the stars. What does that mean, falling places of the stars? I'll show you. But first I want to finish this letter so that you can share my joy. And I hope you do. As much as you might, considering. All right, so to read on, the ancient Arabians. The ancient Arabians had no idea about that. That is, the falling places of the stars. The ancient Arabians indeed did not, because they did not have the Book of Enoch in their possession, for a very good reason. Allah had hidden it from everybody except a remote band of Ethiopian Jews who are still there and still read the Book of Enoch. But it was lost for 1,700 years. And I have links to sources if you request them, but there's even more to it than that. Not only did the ancient Arabians have no idea about the falling places of the stars, they didn't realize how tremendous that makes the oath. That Allah swore by the falling places of the stars. Today we also know that many of the stars that we see are millions and billions of light years away. That is true. That means that the light of the stars that reaches us right now, and we just covered that, so we are actually looking at where the star had been. It has now fallen to a position far, far away from where we are looking at it right now. Does that remind you of relativity in space-time? It might. So when Allah swears by the Malaki, the falling places of the stars, this is the perfect word. It's the perfect word because the stars are no longer at those places. That shows how tremendously vast the universe is and how tremendously far away those stars are. And all of these things make something awesome. And the more awesome is the thing that God swears by, the more powerful the oath. That can be proved. And since God had no one higher to swear by, he swore by himself. That's in the Israeli transmission. But the ancient Arabians had no idea, just as the Quran says. So that was actually predicted, although you may think that's minor. I suggest you think about that for a moment. Who would dare to say such a thing that could only be proved later? And in fact, many people today may still not have any idea. That's why I gave the previous video. So when we plug our scientific discoveries about the universe into our interpretation of the Quran, it makes the linguistic power of the miraculous Quran, that's Arabic, even more powerful. It's not just Arabic. So my friend here who is attempting to teach me, and may Allah bless you all forever, he's more correct than I am, but I'm just bringing out one of the points. And that's how we know that Allah, El Elyon, intended for us to discover these things, and therefore to be blown away by the Quran's descriptions of the universe in the 21st century. That is true. These are some aspects of the linguistic power. The combination of the Arabic language and the infusion of what would have to be called the spirit. In other words, the prophet was guided in his words. That is the classical definition of a prophet. If he's called to write something, you could say that the words themselves are inspired. That doesn't happen very often. It actually does not happen very often. What is fantastic about, to me, one of the things that is fantastic about the Quran is that it's obvious that the messenger of the Quran, whose name is Muhammad, peace, absolute peace, of course, the man was inspired in his very language. In other words, the Creator himself chose the Arabian language long ago. I personally find that to be just more cause for praise, wonder, and gratitude of our incredible Father. So thank you very much for tuning in to this part of our presentation. I hope you enjoyed that. I just think that this is fantastic. So now I have a little bit more to share with you, but that's 15 minutes. That's enough. But I would like to talk with you about the falling places of the stars. I know you're going to love it. We'll be right back. Thank you.